In the past, if you wanted to record an album, you have to rent out a studio, hiring a mixing engineer, spend thousands of dollars just to get decent results. Now, we live in a world where anybody with a decent enough laptop can make a studio quality track basically from the corner of their bedroom with just a few tools and a little bit of know-how. They can make a decent enough track that you can feel good about recording and releasing to an audience. So the cost of recording equipment has dropped significantly over the past maybe 20, let's say 10 years, where it's really gotten over the roof in terms of affordability. We're talking about you that's watching this video. If you have a spare $200 on you, you can start making music right now. Odds are the device you're watching this in, even if it's just a phone, is powerful enough to make an entire track. Mix it, edit, even maybe some mastering depending on what type of platform you're using. And all of that with just a small fraction of what it used to be to own a studio. I'm fortunate enough to have a home recording studio. I actually work from this space in my day job, and then once I'm done with that, I more or less remain in the same space, mixing, mastering, creating, producing, all that type of stuff. If you've seen any other videos and you've seen this room, and on that note, if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I'm glad to have you here. And if you're a new viewer, welcome also to the channel. My name's Sebastian. I run this YouTube channel, recording studio, Verbatim Records, out here in Puerto Rico. And thank you so much for tuning in. So by and large, the biggest and most influential thing that is allowing me to make music in the comfort of our own homes today is your DAW, or your digital audio workstation. We are fortunate enough to live in a time where you can have a lot of good free options, and even the ones that are paid can start as low as like $40, $60. You have fully featured digital audio workstations starting at Reaper, I think starts at like $60 for pretty much a perpetual license. And then you can go up into other territories like Logic Pro, which is $200. Or if you have a little bit more budget and you're more maybe loop oriented, things like FL Studios or Ableton can be like $400, $500, $800, which is a little bit outside of maybe most people's budgets. But if you do have that, it's still by and large way cheaper than it used to be, where you used to have need of a lot of analog gear, rack compressors and lines and patch bays, and all these things are built into that digital audio workstation. And the fact of the matter is, as much as I love buying plugins and buying a bunch of different cool and interesting tools, these tools out of the box do have everything you need to make a good song. And the proof of that is I use Logic. Inside of Logic, they include what are kind of like sample templates or sample songs. A couple years ago, there was like a Billie Eilish song, another one with Lil Nas X, and they make those songs. This is a production level song made in a professional studio, released to the public, or at least I assume that's the version that's released to the public, made inside Logic using only stock plugins, creative routing, and things like that. If that isn't proof enough that we live in a better time than it was 20 years ago, I don't know what is. And even things like, again, if you're a returning viewer, you know that I have a quad cortex. Things guitar centric, you used to need to have these big, huge, heavy amps that needed to be really loud to sound good and have really good ribbon mics and dynamic mics and condenser mics, all kind of testing out different things. That is not the case anymore. You can get a really good tone using something like the Quad Cortex or the Neural DSP plugins directly into your DAW. And you can have, there could be said something about maybe the quality, or we're getting used to more a digital sound or whatever it is. But the fact remains, it is good tone for a fraction of the price than it used to be. Technologies have turned bedrooms into professional recording and editing studios where your laptop or your computer or what have you, or even your iPad can make you into kind of like a one-stop shop where you're able to track and mix and master all within the comfort of your own home. Now, I will say this, technology is just factor number one when it comes time to getting a good sound. You know, whether you're a professional that's been doing this for 10 years or you're a DIYer and you started a week ago, technology is going to help you, but it's only going to be that first step. Learning how to use it is going to be that step that's going to kind of elevate you into the more professional territory. Gone are the days of having to pay a studio engineer to watch him work or her work, you know, in their element, and, you know, being able to ask questions, which, parentheses, I'm not saying is a bad thing. If you have that opportunity, by all means, take it. It will make you a better producer, engineer. But the fact of the matter is, today, the collective knowledge of those engineers that often even make YouTube videos now have brought that barrier to entry to zero. You can get into this right now and you don't have to pay anyone. You just have to spend a little bit of your time learning the basics on gain staging and how XLRs work and whatever. And you can start doing this right after you finish this video. A great example of this is channels like Venus Theory. I have followed Venus Theory for many years at this point. He's a big inspiration on why I'm doing this YouTube thing to begin with, to be honest with you. And I just love the way that he can kind of take these complex subjects and just kind of break them down with just a little bit of touch of nihilism in there and just a little bit of existentialism for a good measure. But the fact is that that man knows how to kind of express, you know, not just his opinion, but these complex subjects and, you know, really presenting them in a very creative and thoughtful way. And I can mention a whole lot of YouTubers that are like this. Rhett Scholl, for example, is, again, a huge inspiration and a big reason why I'm making this particular video. And it's not just them. Platforms like Lander and Splice are giving people like you and me the opportunity to learn by doing, by being able to take these kind of more established rhythms and nuances in melody or whatever, and kind of having a big library of royalty-free music where you can kind of get inspired by or just kind of learn how an instrument can be played in different ways, and or just using it in general for your own kind of loop making type of music. And it's not just them. Platforms like Lander and Splice offer a way to learn by doing. They offer libraries of royalty-free music that you can import into your project or just use that as a basis to make more music. You don't have to enroll into music college to get into this anymore. We've discussed on this channel, you can get started if you sing somewhat decently and have the ability to at least, you know, play a little bit of keyboard or banjo or whatever. You can start this today. And that's not to mention online forums like Reddit or Gearspace, where if you have questions on what to buy in terms of gear, if you should buy this mic or not, or, you know, recommendations on plugins or how to get X amount of results from a mix. Again, you have that question. Somebody else had that question before you, and odds are they probably put it in a Reddit post and someone answered it probably very sassily and sarcastically, but they answered it and that information is out there for you. So what is this all for? You have the tools, check, and you have access to that knowledge. Double check, great. What is this all for? One word: freedom. And it's freedom from record labels. It's freedom from traditional music industry systems. It's freedom of expression in its most base way. In the past, in order to get your music heard in whatever way, you had to get a record deal. And you had to kind of go into bed with these companies that we've now realized many years later, all our favorite artists, they got kind of roped into these things. And these were probably very shady deals, made by 15 or 16-year-olds that they didn't know what they were getting into. Now you have that knowledge on what to look out for. Now you have a bunch of channels that you can look for, how do I protect my music? How do I get a copyright? All these things. And it's freedom to express yourself, but also freedom to protect your music. Even using platforms like DistroKid, TuneCore, City Baby, they've all made it incredibly easy to, distribute your music into these different platforms for usually like a low monthly rate. But even if that's something that you didn't want to do, the fact of the matter is you can upload your music into YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music independently. You don't even have to pay them to distribute it. It has its pros and cons, like with everything. Ultimately, again, we're talking about the freedom to do with your music whatever you want to do with it. And when talking about releasing your music independently, again, look no further than Billie Eilish. That first album she made with her brother, literally in her bedroom, that was all uploaded to SoundCloud. And now, because of the runaway success of that album, these platforms are even more inviting and even more friendly and have even more features to get your music featured out there. BandLab is another one. Bandcamp is another one. You can start a Patreon, a Kickstarter. There's so many ways to get your music done in an independent fashion. It almost begs the question on why you sign with a label to begin with. And I'm not going to sit here and debate whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Smarter people than me talk about this subject all the time. You can look up their videos on the subject. All I'm saying is, if you did not want to go that route, you do not have to go that route. You can upload your music your way on your terms and keep any royalties associated with it. And this independence is breeding much more diversity in music. Genre lines are being crossed. You have people, just kind of fusing all these different genres and these different great songs, where you have artists like 21 Pilots where they constantly bend genres and kind of move them to suit whatever they're wanting to say, and without people gatekeeping these songs from you or me and saying, oh well, I don't like that. You and I are able to benefit from this and just be exposed to more music, which in turn breeds more creativity, which in turn breeds more music. So what does this all mean? It means that the barrier to entry that used to keep you and me out of this industry are gone. It means the technology and the education have lowered the barrier to entry as low as it'll possibly go. It's never going to be zero, but it's as low as it'll possibly get. Odds are the device that you are using to watch this video, if you've made it this far, whether it be a phone, a tablet, a laptop, whatever it is, if it was made in the last 10 years, it's powerful enough to get your first song out there. It's powerful enough to record, arrange, mix, master, and publish your first work of art for everyone to enjoy. In a way, it's the most exciting time to be a musician. It's also sometimes a little bit of the worst time, because in an attention-based economy, there's a lot of people trying to do what you want to do and what I'm doing. And that's uploading our songs to be heard by hundreds or potentially thousands or millions of people. That's the dream, right? But I would argue there's no better time to get into this. There's no better place to get into this than now. The only question is, what are you going to do about it? Thanks for watching.